Hello, and welcome back to Story Time with Eric Zimmer. Where we last left off and where the Red Fern Grows, Billy, with the help of his family, started training his dogs to be real hunting dogs, all ready for the coon hunting season. Now, let's see if they're ready, and let's see if they're successful. So, you ready? Alright, let's begin. Chapter 8. The day hunting season opened, I was as nervous as Sammy, our house cat. Part of that seemingly endless day was spent getting things ready for the coming night. I cleaned my lantern and filled it full of oil. With hog lard, I greased my boots until they were as soft as a hummingbird's nest. I was grinding my axe when Papa came around. He smiled as he said, "This is the big night, isn't it?" "It sure is, Papa," I said, "and I've waited a long time for it." "Yes, I know," he said. "I've been thinking. There's not too much to do around here during the hunting season. I'm pretty sure I can take care of things, so you just go ahead and hunt all you want to." "Thanks, Papa," I said. "I guess I'll be out pretty late at night, and I'll probably have to do a lot of sleeping in the daytime." Papa started frowning. "You know," he said, "your mother doesn't like this hunting of yours very much. She's worried about you being out all by yourself." "I can't see why Mama has to worry," I said. "Haven't I been roaming the woods ever since I was big enough to walk? And I'm almost 14 now." "I know," said Papa. "It's all right with me, but women are a little different than men. They worry more." "It's true. Now just be on the safe side. I think it would be a good idea for you to tell us where you'll be hunting. Then if anything happens, we'll know where to look." I told him I would, but I didn't think anything was going to happen. After Papa had left, I started thinking. He doesn't even talk to me like I was a boy anymore. He talks to me like I was a man. Those wonderful thoughts made me feel just about as big as our old red mule. I had a good talk with my dogs. "I waited almost 3 years for this," he said, "and it hasn't been easy. I've taught you everything I know, and I want you to do your best." Little Ann acted like she understood. She whined and saved me a wash job on my face. Old Dan may have, but he didn't act like it. He just lay there in the sunshine, stretched out and limber as a rag. During supper, Mama asked me where I was going to hunt. "I'm not going far," I said, "just down on the river." I could tell Mama was worried, and it didn't make me feel too good. "Billy," she said, "I don't approve of this hunting, but it looks like I can't say no. Not after all you've been through, getting your dogs and all that training." "Well, he'll be all right," Papa said. "Besides, he's getting to be a good man's size now." "Man!" Mama exclaimed. "Why, he's just a little boy." "You can't keep him a little boy always," Papa said. "He's going to grow up some day." "I know," Mama said, "but I don't like it, not at all, and I can't help worrying." "Mama, please don't worry about me," I said. "I'll be all right. Why, I've been over these hills, you know that." "I know," she said, "but that was in the daytime. I never worry too much when it was daylight, but at night, that's different. It'll be dark and anything could happen." "There won't be anything happening," I said. "I promise I'll be careful." Mama got up from the table saying, "Well, it's like I said, I can't say no, and I can't help worrying. I'll pray every night you're out." The way Mama had me feeling, I didn't know whether to go hunting or not. Papa must have sensed how I felt. "It's dark now," he said, "and I understand those coons start stirring pretty early. You'd better be going, hadn't you?" While Mama was bundling me up, Papa lit my lantern. He handed it to me, saying, "I'd like to see a big coonskin on the smokehouse wall in the morning." The whole family followed me out on the porch. Then we all got a surprise. My dogs were sitting on the steps, waiting for me. I heard Papa laugh. "Why, they know you're going hunting," he said. "No, it as well as anything." "Well, I never," said Mama. "Do they really think they do? It does look like they do. Why, just look at them." Little Ann started wiggling and twisting. And old Dan trotted out to the gate, stopped, turned around, and looked at me. "Sure they know Billy's going hunting," piped the little one, "and I know why." "How do you know so much, silly?" asked the oldest one. "Because I told little Ann, that's why," she said, "and she told old Dan. That's how they know." We all had to laugh at her. The last thing I heard as I left the house was the voice of my mother. "Be careful, Billy," she said, "and don't stay out late." It was a beautiful night, still and frosty. A big grinning Ozark moon had the countryside bathed in the soft yellow glow. The starlit heaven reminded me of a large blue umbrella, outspread and with the handle broken off. Just before I reached the timber, I called my dogs to me. "Now the trail will be a little different tonight," I whispered. "It won't be a hide dragged on the ground. It'll be the real thing, so remember everything I taught you, and I'm depending on you. Just put one up a tree and I'll do the rest." I turned them loose, saying, "Go get him." They streaked for the timber. By the time I had reached the river, every nerve in my body was drawn up as tight as a fiddle string. Big-eyed and with ears wide open, I walked on, stopping now and then to listen. The way I was slipping along, anyone would have thought I was trying to slip up on a coon myself. I had never seen a night so peaceful and still. All around me, tall sycamores gleamed like white streamers in the moonlight. A prowling skunk came wobbling up the river bank. He stopped when he saw me. I smiled at the foxfire glow of his small, beady red eyes. He turned and disappeared in the underbrush. I heard a sharp snap and feathery rustle in some brush close by. A small rodent started squealing in agony. A nighthawk had found its supper. Ha ha! Well, that's nature for you. They are in their diet. Across the river and from far back in the rugged mountains I heard the baying of a hound. I wondered if it was the same one I had heard from my window on those nights so long ago. Although my eyes were seeing the wonders of the night, my ears were ever alert, listening for the sound of my hounds telling me they had found a trail. I was expecting one of them to bawl, but when it came, it startled me. The deep tones of old Dan's voice jarred the silence around me. I dropped my axe and almost dropped my lantern. A strange feeling came over me. I took a deep breath and threw back my head to give the call of the hunter. But something went wrong. My throat felt like it had been tied in a knot. I swallowed a couple of times and the knot disappeared. As loud as I could, I whooped. "Whee! Get him, Dan! Get him!" Little Ann came in. The bell-like tones of her voice made shivers run up and down my spine. I whooped to her. "Whee! Tell it to him, little girl! Tell it to him!" This was what I had prayed for, worked and sweated for. My own little hounds bawling on the trail of a river coon. I don't know why I cried, but I did. While the tears rolled, I whooped again and again. They straightened the trail out and headed down the river. I took off after them as fast as I could. A mile downstream, the coon pulled his first trick. I could tell by my dogs' voices that they had lost the trail. When I came to them, they found they were in an old drift sniffing around. The coon had pulled a simple trick. He'd run out on the drift, leapt into the river and the water and crossed the river. To an experienced coonhound, the crude trick would have been nothing at all, but my dogs were just big, awkward pups trailing their first live coon. I stood and watched, wondering if they would remember the training I had given them. Now and then I would whoop, urging them on. Old Dan was having a fit. He whined and he bawled. He whimpered and cried. He came to me and reared up, begging for help. "I'm not going to help you," I scolded, "and you're not going to find him out in that drift. If you would just remember some of the training I gave you, you could find the trail. Now go find that coon." He ran back out on the drift and started searching. Little Ann came to me. I could see the pleading in her warm gray eyes. "I'm ashamed of you, little girl," I said. "I thought you had more sense than this. If you let him fool you this easily, you'll never be a coon dog." She whined, turned, and trotted downstream to search again for the lost trail. I couldn't understand. Had all the training I had given them been useless? I knew if I waded the river, they would follow me. Once on the other side, it would be easy for them to find the trail. I didn't want it that way. I wanted them to figure it out by themselves. The more I thought about it, the more disgusted I became. I sat down and buried my face in my arms. Out on the drift, old Dan started whining. It made me angry, and I got up to scold him again. I couldn't understand his actions. He was running along the edge of the drift, whimpering and staring downriver. I looked that way, and I could see something swimming from the opposite shore. At first I thought it was a muskrat. In the middle of the stream, where the moonlight was the brightest, I got a good look. It was little Anne. With a loud whoop, I saw how I told her how proud I was. My little girl had remembered her training. She came out on a gravel bar, shook the water from her body, and disappeared in the thick timber. Minutes later, she let me know she had found the trail. Before the tones of her voice had died away, old Dan plowed into the water. He was so eager to join her, I could hear him whining as he swam. As soon as his feet touched bottom in the shallows, he started bawling and lunging. White sheets of water, knocked high in the moonlight by his churning feet, gleamed like thousands of tiny white stars. He came out of the river onto a sandbar. In his eagerness, his feet slipped on in the loose sand, down he went. He came out of his roll, running and bawling. Ahead of him was a log jam. He sailed over it and disappeared down the river bank. Seconds later, I heard his deep voice with the sharp cries of little Anne. At that moment, no boy in the world could have been more proud of his dogs than I was. Never again would I doubt them. I was hurrying along, looking for a shallow riffle so I could wade across, when the voices of my dogs stopped. I waited and listened. They opened again on my side of the stream. The coon had crossed back over. I couldn't help smiling. I knew that never again would a ringtail foot fool them by swimming the river. The next trick the old fellow pulled was dandy. He climbed a large water oak standing about 10 feet from the river and simply disappeared. I got there in time to see my dogs swimming for the opposite shore. For half an hour they worked at that bank. Not finding the trail, they swam back. I stood and watched them. They practically tore the riverbank to pieces looking for the trail. Old Dan knew the coon had climbed the water oak. He went back, reared up onto it, and bawled a few times. There's no use in doing that, boy, I said. I know he climbed it, but he's not there now. Maybe it's like Papa said. It just climbed right on through the top and disappeared in the stars. My dog didn't know it, but I was pretty well convinced that that was what the coon had done. They wouldn't give up. Once again, they crossed the river to the other shore. It was no use. The coon hadn't touched that bank. They came back. Old Dan went up the river and little Anne worked downstream. An hour and a half later, they gave up and came to me begging for help. I knelt down between their wet bodies. While I scratched and petted them, I let them know that I still loved them. I'm not mad, I said. I know you did your best. If that coon can fool both of us, then we're just beat. We'll go someplace else to hunt. He's not the only coon in these bottoms. Just as I picked up my axe and lantern, little Anne let out a bawl and tore out down the river bank. Old Dan, with a bewildered look on his face, stood for a moment looking after her. Then raised